Your advice to the hyperhidrosis family on Iontophoresis machine treatment.
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, we've gone over a lot so far in terms of, improvements that you could make, maybe based on not having success with iontophoresis in the past. We've talked about some of the technical things to look at when you're comparing iontophoresis. But probably my number one recommendation is just just don't give up. We have a 98% success rate here. The odds of it working for you are astronomically in your favor. And as I said, the 2% of patients who do end up returning the device, sometimes that's because insurance didn't work out when they thought it would. And then it turns out there was a policy technicality. They had to end up returning the device, right? That does happen occasionally. But in my opinion, from my experience doing this, if patients have the patience to work with us, to try different things, and also have the willpower to stick to it, right? Especially during that initial period of the first 2 weeks, treating every other day, making sure you're developing this consistency is really important. So my two biggest pieces of advice, I guess you could say, for people with iontophoresis is, number one, don't give up. If it's not working for you yet, there's most likely something that someone can identify that would account for that. There's always something else to try. That would be my biggest one. I feel like there's another one I was going to say at the end there too, but.
Is there anything you may want to add?
Anything else to add now that I've kind of gave the big advice to the entire community and forgot the second part of the advice that I was going to give? One other thing, don't be afraid to talk about our sweating. I think the solution aside, the condition itself, hyperhidrosis, is still something that has this kind of stigma to it, to where even when people have found the solution, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to ever talk about that it was something that they struggled with. And it's really important because this is most likely a genetic thing, because we deal with so many people, it's multiple family members. Someone knows someone, it was my uncle, who, they always just said he had clammy hands. Or they just said, it's anxiety, like they're just anxious. But really, these are misdiagnoses a lot of the time. And it really is it's a physical, it's hyperhidrosis. And it doesn't matter if, you're working with a psychologist or you're trying all these other methods, and cutting out caffeine from your diet is something I've seen people say before. A lot of, I think, the systems that patients try to create to manage their symptoms become so much more stressful and expensive in the long term to maintain than just having the determination to keep trying to find a solution that works. Because when you do, you don't have to worry about these very elaborate structures and solutions. And, I always talk about, I once met a teacher who, before getting into iontophoresis, told me she wore a fake cast on her hand for every meeting with parents every year. So she always had an excuse as to why you can't shake hands, right? It's these little things that just become so much more than us. And at a time, people can manage it for a while, but patients will come to a point where it just becomes overwhelming. You feel exhausted, right? Maybe it's too hot out and just you're over it and you want to reach back out. And sometimes that's when they'll find this, in just Googling or looking at support groups online. And there's someone that mentions, hey, I just got the Fischer and it's really working for me. And they go, what's this? So I think that's really important, just to talk, right? Because you never know when there's someone else out there who's looking for help, who's looking for someone else to say, hey, I see the world that you see it, even if I'm not seeing it that way now. I understand what you're going through. Because the more that we can inspire that and inspire people to continue on their journeys, the more people we're going to help as a community.